Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us. For those of you that are here, welcome. This is the Transformers in the Public Sector Cohort Learning Opportunity. So you're joining us to learn more about an exciting 12-month opportunity to advance skills practices in your area. If we move on to the next slide, for those of you who may not know us, Opportunity at Work is a nonprofit social enterprise focused on STARS. STARS is an acronym we use to talk about the over 70 million talented workers in our communities that are skilled through alternative routes. These are folks who have built skills in a variety of different ways through military service, community college, workforce training programs, and most commonly on the job. They just don't have a bachelor's degree. And they're the majority of almost every community across our nation. And they have the skills for many in-demand jobs right now. So we work with many partners to make sure that they get access to the careers and jobs that they deserve. And so we'd like to get into what today is all about. So today we are wanting to make sure that you walk away understanding more about why we're launching a cohort for state teams to advance skills-based practices to tap into STARS. We want to make sure that you understand a little bit more about what you'll get from us and what you'll need to participate and engage in as part of this cohort. And we want to leave you with some ideas about what you may be able to accomplish over these 12 months. You see the agenda here, and we'll jump in. Just before we do, I just wanted to let you know that we will be taking questions, and I believe the chat is open. So please do feel free as questions come to you, drop them in the chat. And we have a whole Q&A portion at the end where we'll be able to address them. So what have we heard? There are so many folks across the country who are interested and committed to removing unnecessary degree requirements and barriers to hiring in the public sector so that they can tap into all of the talent in their communities. And as you can see here, there are about 21 folks who have either enacted executive orders, policy actions, initiatives, or legislation to improve access to public sector roles. There's also, I think now 25, I know it says 23 here, but I think our partners in NGA said that there are at least 24 states and one territory that are a part of their Skills in the States initiative committed to advancing skills-based practices to tap into talent. But what we hear from folks is that they need help in figuring out either how to refine, advance, or get started on the skills-based journey. That's why we launched the STARS Public Sector Hub. Its purpose is to support you and others like yourselves in actually driving action and making tangible change within your communities and within your agencies so that you can get the access to talent that you need to improve service delivery and support to citizens. So if you're not already signed up for the hub, there's a link here and that you can get afterward to be a member. And get access to a free learning event series, as well as opportunities like this one, which is a cohort activity. If we go to the next slide, let me tell you a little bit more about what we're offering. So we are excited to support state teams in their efforts to take action over a 12-month period to focus on some sort of skills force practice in your state to either engage STARS in hiring, in STAR advancement, or STAR retention in your state. And the opportunity is that you will get the time and support from us and some of our partners in the hub to make tangible progress that we'll be able to measure. So how will we do that? There will be group technical assistance, and you can go back, stay on the other slide for a moment there. There'll be group technical assistance as well as support from other states within your community. So like I said, you can stay on that other slide. I'll let you know when to move on to the next one. Thanks. So the cohort will have a focus. So anybody that's interested in joining should expect to select one of these three areas to focus on, and they'll probably have a topic area within that. We'd also ask for each state team to be making measurable goals that they'll work towards achieving. And through the application process, you'll suggest some of those, and then our team, if selected, will work with you to refine them to make them, achievable and scoped to the engagement period that we have. So again, this is an opportunity to go on a 12-month journey with others like you to test and learn on skills-based practices in an area of STAR hiring, advancement, or retention. So we can get into a little bit more of the details on the next slide now. Thanks. You can go back one. Thank you. So the way we're going to be doing this is actually to chunk that 12-month period into two 14-week sprints. The way those 14-week sprints will work is that weekly, you will work with your own team to move forward on your challenge based on a framework that Opportunity at Work will support you and our partners will on. Then bi-weekly, you will join a cohort-wide meeting, where you'll triage support, get access to additional training, and share some of your progress. At the end of the first 14 weeks, we expect that there will be some items that you'll need to address, gain internal support, and kind of circulate some of the learnings and what's needed next. So you have about, on here it says 3 months, but you'll have a little bit of time between to reach a series of milestones. And we'll touch base with you, but at least once or twice over those what we're calling middle milestones, just to make sure that you're making progress in preparing for the next phase. And then we'll do the same thing for a second phase. We'll have around a 14-week sprint where you'll work weekly to achieve progress with your team. You'll meet bi-weekly with the cohort of other states that are focused on a topic area similar to yours to triage, crowdsource, and to share out your progress. And you'll also have opportunities for individualized technical assistance and for us to help you measure along the way. So I think that's about it on that. I think one thing I'd just like to mention before we move on is just that we've chosen this because we know that progress happens when you've got time, a team, and a manageable scope. And we want to make sure to time bound these so that you can achieve something. And we want to provide you with support so that together we're bringing additional capacity to your team to make progress within these time bound efforts. Can go on to the next. And like Henry's saying in the chat, feel free to pop in any questions you have. As we know from speaking to so many of you, everybody's at a different part of their journey, and that's okay. We want to help you where you are to get you to where you want to be. And we can talk about what progress looks like for your particular constraint if you have questions. But what the exciting opportunity here is to actually continue your journey with others. So not just us at Opportunity at Work and our partners who have subject matter expertise, but other government leaders who are facing similar challenges, who have tried things in similar spaces. What you see here is basically what we call our ABC. It's our framework, our theory of change. It goes from awareness to action, to behavior adaptation, to changed outcomes. And we provide some examples here of the type of journey you could go on based on where you are. So if you're still in awareness, you might want to be driving increased awareness and clarity around what you're doing related to skills-first practices and removing degree requirements from jobs. What we might be able to measure related to that is what increased awareness looks like, what the baseline is, what the tactics are you're using, and how that measurement is changing in terms of progress. Similarly, I provide examples for behavior adaptation. So maybe you've already removed degree requirements and you've started to reassess qualifications for jobs, and or you've introduced other policy and practices. We could help you better understand how you're doing in implementing those policies and practices, on hiring within a particular job title, or on improving different actions and trainings within your institution. And then finally, changed outcomes. We expect that this might be further on into the 12 months and maybe even after, depending on where folks are. But we want to help people to set them up to be able to continue to sustain and learn from their changes and what as they go on the skills first journey. And so we could be measuring STAR engagement and STAR belonging or other things based on where you are on your journey. So those are just a few examples of how we can take where you are and think about where you could be, and then the types of things that we could measure as part of that. These are not the only things, but these are just to be examples of the process that you may engage in. Okay. So before we have a conversation, I'd like to just jump into a little bit more about why you should participate in this cohort. So if we can move on to the next slide. I think one of the things that's missing right now is access to targeted analytics and a narrative that allows you to understand how you're doing relative to other states. So we have a robust STARS mobility data model that will enable you to understand in which jobs STARS are currently getting mobility, what does job quality look like, and how you're doing compare to others. And this will enable you to think about your measures and how you want to make progress. It'll also help you with thinking about what success looks like. And so we're really excited to be able to share and equip you all with additional data to support you on making decisions around where to get started or how to refine, and on how to track progress as you move along this journey. The other thing that our organization has a lot of, if you go on to the next slide, we also have another example here of just how we can look at data across time. So not just this last year, but historically, what has access looked like? So we have historical data along with real-time data that can help you think about and quantify your baseline and how to move to where you want to go. The other thing that we really have is the opportunity to create a shared narrative that is compelling and can catalyze the movement in your communities. So if we move on to the next slide, we just have a few newspaper and articles that have been out there. But one of the things that our Tear the Paper Ceiling campaign and coalition has been able to test and learn is just the type of language that works and how to mix data with storytelling to help people understand both the why, the what, and the impact of what these skills first practices mean to both organizations, communities, and the economy. And so we're excited to share that as part of this journey with folks too. So finally, we are really excited to introduce James from GovOps in California. California is one of our founding members of the Hub. And we just wanted to hear from him one of the reasons why California is interested in going on a cohort journey with other states. James, I'll turn it over to you.
Nice, thank you so much. And lots of great information on the cohort journey that we can look forward to. And so thank you all also for having me. I did just kind of want to share a little bit about where we are in the journey and why I feel like this is going to be a great thing. And so, like many of you, California is midway in evolving our state's civil service system to promote more jobs first or skills first hiring positions, and also sort of working through some of the systemic barriers of the past. And so I think that the cohort model is something that California is really looking forward to in a way that all of us can sort of maybe bond over some mutual struggles and also share best practices and really learn from each other as we look to improve public sector opportunities for STARS. And in particular, I'm interested in learning from all of you in other states and sort of the journey you've been on and some of the things that you've been thinking through as far as culture shifting and policy changes and process changes that we may also be going through here in California. And so all of the great, I think, data insights that Blair was just talking about will also be valuable, but in particular, interested in working with all of you to know what your experience has been and also learn from you. And so in a nutshell, I think that's part of what I'm looking forward to through this cohort model in, a community of practice format. I think it's not necessarily often that all of us in various states get the chance to talk to each other all together about topics like this, even though, we may be going through some of the same experiences. And so I'm excited about working with all of you and hope that you also see the value in the cohort experience. And really, that's all I was hoping to share today, but happy to talk more if there are any questions.
Awesome. No, thank you so much, James. Is there anything in particular, one area that you might just want to share that you all are digging in that not that you would necessarily
Yeah.
focus on that, but is there a topic that you think like, I think I could really learn and want to hear from others on that California could really benefit from?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of areas. One is the idea that it's great to be able to adjust minimum qualifications and barriers to entry, but it's another thing to implement different processes for hiring managers and HR specialists to be able to screen and review applications in a way that's standardized according to set skills or competencies in lieu of what has historically been a degree requirement to qualify. And so interested in learning from all of you what some of the things have been that you're looking at to ensure that the inherent sort of fairness of the civil service hiring process is preserved, while also allowing for evaluation of application packages for skills first. And so that's all one thing. And then the second thing would be for me learning what are some of the sort of data collection mechanisms and evaluation metrics that you all are using to evaluate the effectiveness of some of the skills for strategies on an ongoing basis. And so those are two areas in particular. I could clearly talk about this all day, but I'll stop there at the first two things that immediately come to mind as things I'd be interested in learning from all of you about.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, James. Those are two hot topics, I will admit, from conversations we've had too. So I'm sure you'll get lots of information if that's an area where you're interested in digging in, because it sounds like it's an area where others are too. We did get a question, James, about where you would say California is on their journey. Would you say early, late, in the middle? How would you categorize it?
I would categorize this as in the middle. So where we are is there has been a process over the last few years already to remove uh, unnecessary education related requirements from a variety of our state's job types. And so right now there's been around 170 or so classifications that we have changed the entry requirements, in particular for early career job types, to make it so that there are alternative pathways to qualify alongside what has historically been a degree qualification. Now, not only are we continuously looking for additional job types where this would be a good idea, but also looking at how now we have to go farther than that and go towards that more in-depth multi-level implementation through the organization, through all of our various departments, to ensure that not only is the requirement changed, but also that all of the hiring managers and the HR shops are truly promoting that option, as well as looking at state. We're hosting more job fairs and doing more community communications externally and things like that to let job seekers across our state know that this is now an opportunity in areas where it may not have been historically. And so that's exciting. But I think taking the implementation to a deeper level is where we're at now to make it not only on paper, which it is, there are a lot more opportunities for stars now on paper within state government, and also taking those next steps to ensure that those mechanisms are being promoted and utilized widely across our departments.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing with us what you've already done and where you're digging in, because I think that's helpful as other people think about where they are on their journey and where they need to go next. Because that is the biggest thing I think that we're hearing. It's like how to choose where to dig in when it seems
Yeah,
like there's so many things that have to be done.
yeah, it's
Well,
tough.
thank you. Thank you so much, James. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we go into some Q&A?
No, I guess just thank you for having me. I'm excited about this. And while various jurisdictions and state and local jurisdictions may have different org structures, or policy priorities. I'm hoping that this is one of the areas where we can all kind of, agree to put our heads together and really make it so that it's a known opportunity now in sort of opening up the doors for individuals who have a lot of skills to offer, but just happen to not have a degree.
Awesome. Yeah. And I love how you said about there's lots of opportunities on paper, but how are we making those real? Yeah. I think that that's what this cohort, that's like a beautiful way to kind of capture what this cohort is all about. Well, thank you so much, James, for sharing your time. And we're excited for some folks to go on this journey with you all in California. So we're going to transition back to a little bit more information, just a little bit, I promise, before we open it up for any questions that you might have. I think James did a really nice job of sharing the particular context for California and what's happening next and where they might want to dig in. I think for the Californians and any other state that's on the call today, what is exciting is thinking about how to quantify progress and where you might be, where we'd hope to see you be by the end of these 2 14-week sprints sometime September next year. So if we pull back up the deck, what I'd love to share is, how we're going to support you to quantify progress over the course of this journey. So there's 2 ways. The first is just that we're capturing progress to help you understand what's working and what's not. The part of the approach that we're using, I know that we talked about being time-bound, tactical, and scoped. It's also all about learning by doing. So we're going to be learning about new skills first practices, trying to apply them to our own states, learning whether they work or not based on data, and then iterating. So that's one way that we'll be measuring and quantifying progress and using data to help us. The other is thinking about where you started at the beginning of the journey and where you could be at the end. And I think this is where we're most excited. In our experiences with states, in these short periods of time, people have been able to go very far. When you've been able to get support and some time to have your heads down with a couple other folks and some outside support to move forward. So let's just say we anchor ourselves back in the ABC. You are an organization that's still trying to create awareness. And, you want to show that you made progress let's say, this year in raising more awareness of stars. What we're going to commit to helping you do is actually quantifying that. And so you may be able to say that you saw an increase in awareness among our colleagues of 10%, or that, that your executive order was actually able to open 15,000 new jobs for stars in the next 3 years. These are just 2 examples. They're not the only ones. Let's say your state team is more in the behavior shifts. You're trying to implement some real changes. And you've already removed degree requirements from certain jobs that resulted in 25,000 jobs opened to stars. So what you will, you could hope to see and say at the end is that your behavior actually matched your intention. 70% of the jobs that you made commitments to were actually opened, posted, and that maybe you increased star applicants by a particular increase year over year. And finally, let's say you were trying to implement and sustain some of your learnings, and you could talk about star hiring. You could say that maybe you saw an increase in star hiring in 10%, and you could talk about what that means in terms of hires across the state, and what that could mean for other job titles. So these are just some of the examples of the way that we're going to be helping you to quantify progress. And we're doing this for 2 reasons. One, we're doing this, like we said, so that you can have a baseline, a starting point to understand what progress could look like. But 2, also to know that some of these, what seemingly seem like small changes, have a big impact. To maintain momentum and energy, because I worked in federal government and I understand that inertia and the status quo is kind of like ever present, no matter how intent and hard at work we are at changing things. And so we want to continue to let people know what's happening, so we can use that either to improve what we're doing or to signal how things are working and how our intentions are actually making progress for the people that we're trying to serve stars. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jalencia to let you know, if you're interested, how you can get involved, and then we'll open it up to Q&A.
Thanks, Blair. Next slide, please. Alrighty, so I know you all are interested in learning more about next steps. So I'm going to walk you through some key dates that you all should keep in mind as you're considering applying. And so the first is office hours. So on June 18th, June 25th, and July 9th, we'll be hosting office hours at 12 p.m. Eastern, where you'll have an opportunity to learn more about the application process or dive into more specific questions you might have on the cohort experience. So Henry and I from the Opportunity at Work team will be available to answer your questions on those dates. So again, they're June 18th, June 25th, and July 9th at 12 p.m. Eastern, and you can sign up using these links, which we'll share with you along with the deck after today's session. The second date to keep in mind is the application deadline. The application is live. It's on our STARS Public Sector Hub website right now. So you can go on there today and check it out. We'll be accepting applications on a rolling basis, but the official deadline will be July 12th at 5 p.m. Eastern. And just a note, in order to give you all a meaningful cohort experience, we will be limiting the capacity of the cohort. We want to be able to keep it small enough that you all have time to engage with each other and share your challenges and get into some really good discussion during the cohort sessions. So we don't want to overwhelm folks in the cohort. So we'll be having a limit to capacity. And so we encourage you all to, if this is something you're interested in and ready to get started on now, we encourage you all to submit your application as soon as possible for priority consideration. By July 26th, all applications will be reviewed and all states will be contacted. And then by August 9th, our cohorts will be finalized and we'll announce who will be participating in our first cohort. And then finally, we'll kick off our cohorts with a virtual kickoff session on September 9th. All right.
Delencia, before we head into Q&A, I'd love for the Opportunity at Work team members that are here. I totally forgot at the top to introduce ourselves. So I just want you to know, put some faces to names that you'll be conversing with via email and hopefully through office hours to learn more. So my name is Blair. I lead the policy team. Delencia, if you'll introduce yourself, and then love to have Henry, Erica, and Charmaine just pop off to say hello really quick so you know who will be supporting you.
Thanks. I'm Delencia. I'm a policy analyst on the policy team and supporting with the Public Sector Hub.
My name's Henry Bartholomew. I'm a senior policy manager of policy partnerships at Opportunity at Work and spend a lot of time working with public sector organizations like yourself. So really excited to get these cohorts launched and see some real change happen. Looking forward to working with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Charmaine. I'm a senior manager on the delivery team, and I support that customer experience.
Amazing. And if Poppy is here, I'd love for you to pop off too. And then Delencia, back to you to get into some Q&A.
I think the rest of the folks might be saying hello in the chat.
Papia, you should be unmuted there. There you go.
Thanks, Henry. Hi, everyone. This is Papia DeVroy. I work very closely with everyone who just introduced themselves, and we're so delighted to have the opportunity to speak to you all today.
All right, let's get into some questions. Henry, are there any popping up in the chat?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we can allow people to ask their questions verbally. So I'm just going to go down the list. We covered Nicole's question with James during that session, covered Jesse's. Tiffany, Tyler Garner, I'm going to unmute you if you don't mind sharing your question that way. Let's see. You should be unmuted now or allowed to. You can unmute yourself now.
I'm sorry. I apologize in advance for the background noise. I just had a clarifying question about whether the state team could include other representation, for example, maybe a local municipality or other entities
Awesome. Thanks, Tiffany. It's a great question. Oh yeah, we can pull down the slides and answer these questions live. So I think the state teams will be primarily comprised of people who are working within the state government. That said, it doesn't mean that the change that could happen as a result of the cohort wouldn't be involving some major municipalities in those states. But that's a little bit TBD dependent on kind of the subject area that the states want to work on. Hopefully that's kind of somewhat of a helpful answer to your question. I think the participants will be state leaders, but the hope would be that the change cascades down to the large municipalities throughout the state as well.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I would welcome Tiffany to a follow-up conversation, or in your application, they could be members. I think we're just expecting at least one state team leader, like Henry's saying.
Thank you.
Let's see, go back to the Q&A here. Let me just pull it up. Okay. How can I help within my state if I'm not in a state leadership position, especially as a star myself? So I think, this is kind of what we're trying to change, is to try to make those pathways more available to stars within the public sector roles. I think, my lens, it's always important to advocate for yourself and advocate for skills-based hiring. I think that's what we're trying to advance as part of these cohorts. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done beyond the change at the state level, but these cohorts will be focused on working with state leaders. Hoping that's a helpful answer. I don't know if Blair or Jonesy, you had anything you wanted to add to that.
I would say that you should consider yourself a champion, and there could be ways for you to participate. And so I think that's, again, like, follow up with us so we can have a little bit more of a conversation about where you sit and what you might want to achieve. And that might help us better share whether this would be the right opportunity for you. But we're really grateful that you're thinking about this and that you're spending your time with us today. Because I think, like Henry said, there's no better advocate than stars themselves in these amazing roles and with the amazing skills. So
thanks for asking the question. From Maya Grayson, let me see if I can just unmute you here to ask your question. Okay, Maya, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, thank you so much. I am in Louisiana, and I was wondering, after hearing from James, if there are any states that have, I guess, fully implemented a STARS approach, like with either changes in their minimum qualifications and or the evaluation of candidates that are applying for jobs.
Well, there are states that have made a lot of progress. I don't know if I would say fully implemented, but I think that that's kind of why we're running this cohorts, is to advance that. I think Maryland would be a great example. Blair, I don't know if you wanted to speak to any of the specifics there. We can also follow up with the Maryland case study afterwards, if that's helpful to kind of demonstrate the changes that have been made since they passed an executive order to remove degree requirements.
You guys could share that information.
Absolutely. Will do.
I'd also say Colorado has made minimum qualification changes for over 70% of their roles, I believe, within the state, or at least that was, and they believe they can for at least 80% of the roles in their state. I think if you ask them, they would say that there's still evaluation challenges that they're working through. They're building some trainings, et cetera. So they're also on a journey like James, to figure out how to make sure that both sides, the applicant experience, the application process, and the evaluation process, those quals are able to be translated into hires. And so I think they're probably still on a journey, but there's some more examples out there that we can share. We can connect you to folks there too.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maya. Okay, I'm looking back at the Q&A. And unless I'm missing something, I'm not seeing any additional questions. I will say, if you have a question now, if you raise your hand, you click the raise hand button, I should be able to then unmute you if you have a question you wanted to ask as well.
And we will send out the recording. Sorry, saw that question.
That's a good point. Thank you. I'm looking. The other thing I'll mention is that we are hosting these office hours. So, I'm somebody who processes things not immediately. And sometimes I have a question, 2 days later, I'm like, oh man, I should have asked that on the webinar, which is why we're hosting these office hours. So we'll have 3 office hours prior to the application deadline. So I'd encourage you, Oh, nice. We have a hand raised. I encourage you to attend those because that's a great place to have a little bit more discussion about the questions as you go through the application process. And I see Nicole raised your hand. I will allow you to talk. Go ahead, Nicole. You should be able to. There we go.
Hi, can y'all hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
So my name is Nicole Tucker from Louisiana. I think I've talked to, all of y'all on the call. Here in Louisiana, we are probably in the middle of the beginning in the middle. So you definitely resonate with California and James a good bit. We actually just had legislation passed to officially remove degree requirements, but I did have a question. The graphic you had with the other states, I am curious because we've been doing research for a few months now when the legislation first came up, because here in Louisiana, we've always had what we call substitutions or equivalency measures in other states. So I was curious for the states that, are saying, we've removed degree requirements or we've eliminated degrees. We've been tracking and looking at some of that legislation, whether it was this year or last year, and it seems like a lot of states are simply adding what we've had, which is substitution or equivalency. So I'm just curious, in your research and talking with other states, what does that look like when we say that, they've removed the degree requirements? Do y'all see that they're just adding substitutions, which will allow a path for those stars to get in? Or are they completely removing degrees altogether and you don't even see a degree as the minimum qualification?
Blair, you want to take first crack on that one?
Yeah. Thanks, Nicole, and it's so nice to see you. We're grateful for all the work you all are doing. So what we'd probably say is we've seen kind of like 3 buckets of executive orders and legislation that have gone out. Some of them are just because similarly, like they have rules that they can't discriminate or hire based on degrees. So they've always had some sort of policy that enables substitutions or equivalencies, but now they are committing to re-review those jobs to see whether those degrees and equivalencies are actually necessary so that they can remove them. Some of those states are in that process of just re-reviewing their jobs to see where they can pull them off. Other states have made direct commitments to removing degree requirements from particular roles or a particular percentage of roles. Pennsylvania, like 90%. Maryland, 50%. They focused on administrative and IT roles. Like people are focusing on particular areas first and then expanding. And the third is transitioning to a skills-based system. And I think Colorado may be the only one that had an executive order or legislation that's going beyond just thinking about degrees and trying to base their entire system of hiring and talent management on skills, which is a little bit different than how some other, it's all aligned, but just different on the way that they're thinking about it. And so those are kind of the 3 buckets. Everybody's on a different part. And what we're tracking is the people who are, and we may be missing things too. So if we're missing it, we welcome that. We did just hear about the legislation, but we're trying to capture those who are recommitting to re-review because equivalencies are great. But what we are hearing from a lot of STAR candidates is that sometimes they self-select out when they see an equivalency because they believe that degree will be prioritized. And so we're interested in helping people understand, how do you get from equivalencies to degrees? Or I'm sorry, to skills, not degrees, completely. And I see James is interested in weighing in, so I'll turn it over to James.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I think, Nicole, your question is actually a really good question. It made me smile because it's something that California has been working through as well. Because we have heard we are one of the states in the bucket that is looking at still allowing for individuals with degrees to qualify, but having a very clearly defined substitution pattern for individuals who do not have degrees. That being said, we're trying to do it in a way that is, I guess the best way to put it is doing it in a way that also ensures that individuals who are stars don't self-select out. So for example, we've had a couple of our very generalist, very popular classifications where we are actually listing the minimum qualifications in a way that looks like the degree is the substitution pattern.
That's exactly what we're doing currently. So yeah, we are actually flipping what we currently have, where it may say a degree as the minimum qualification, and the substitution may be 6 years of just full-time experience in anything. before the legislation got proposed and now approved, we were simply going to flip it because we do understand people read the first line. We always say here people don't read, so they don't even go past the first line. So if you see a degree, they're not even going to the substitution. But if we now lead with experience and the substitution is the degree, then maybe, we're hopeful that we will see an increase in those stars applying in the applications. And we are actually trying to figure out our metric and tracking that. So before we flip the switch to do that, we're actually trying to get our foundation right now of what are our metrics right now to see how that's going to change when we actually flip the switch. And then the other question I had, I think me and you, James, could probably talk all day, but the other question I had is about the application process for the cohort. So I clicked on the link. I was just curious because it doesn't seem like I can see all the questions and stuff. What all is involved in the application process? Just so I could prepare time frame, how long it would take to fill out the application.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. So I'm trying to think how long. I don't know if I put an estimate. I would say it's probably about 20 minutes or so between naming some different team members as well as some of your kind of key challenges that you're most interested in addressing through the cohort. Blair, Jalency, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add there, but yeah, you can click through next and then you can see some more of the questions as well.
Okay. I mean, if it'd be helpful, Jalency, we could share the edit version right now and just walk through. I mean, it shouldn't take too long, like Henry said. There are 6 sections, but they're shorter. If that'd be of interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can share that.
Okay, perfect.
Give me 1 second. Okay, so this is what it looks like from our end, where you can see the full version of the application.
Okay.
See. Okay, so the first section is just some applicant information. So whoever is filling out the application will need to provide their name, email, job title, organization, what state you're representing. And then it's important to know that you'll need to designate a lead point of contact for your organization's participation in the cohort, as well as 1 to 2 additional alternate team members who will be able to participate in the event that you are not able to participate in the cohort. So that's something to think about before submitting the application. I will say as a tip, if you do want to just like move forward through the application, you could just like write in test and continue to the next section before submitting anything. So it'll be okay. The next section is where you'll list the contact information for the additional team members who will be participating in the cohort as well. And then we have a section here where we're asking about meeting availability. So as we mentioned, the cohort is scheduled to be conducted in 2 phases. So phase 1 will happen between September and December of this year. And then phase 2, well, you have the middle milestones period in the middle, and then phase 2 will happen between April and August of next year. So I know it may be a little bit hard to anticipate your availability by then, but to the best of your availability, we'd like you all to let us know if you think you'd be able to attend the full cohort, or if maybe your state could only attend phase 1 or phase 2. So we do ask that question. And then, as Blair mentioned, we'll be meeting twice a month during the cohort, so every other week. And so we ask if there's any conflicts in your schedule to please let us know, and we'll try to accommodate as best as we can. And then the last section is really just around your state's interest in participating in the cohort. So we ask, why are you interested? What challenges has your state experienced in implementing skills first practices? What goals does your administration or agency have? And then also, as Blair mentioned, we'll be focusing on 3 key focus areas as part of the cohort, and we'll be grouping you all based on your area of interest. So the first will be focused on hiring stars, advancement of stars, and then the third will be on retention of stars. So you'll be able to select in which category you're most interested in working on, and then there's also space for you to write in an additional topic that you're interested. We're asked more about what outcomes you're hoping to achieve, what support you need, and then if there's anything additional you'd like to share with us. So as Henry noted, it is a fairly quick application. It could take about 20 minutes once you identify the right people who will be participating and confirm with everyone's schedules. Yeah,
this was helpful. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad we could do it.
Thanks, John. Yeah. So let's see. Double check the Q&A here. I haven't seen anything. Let's see. Any raised hands? I'm not seeing any additional raised hands here. Maybe good time to close it out, and then we'll hopefully see some of you in the office hours in a couple weeks.
Yeah, so on behalf of Opportunity at Work, we're so grateful for you sharing this last hour with us. As we've mentioned, feel free to reach out to us directly, policy@opportunityatwork.org, or sign up for our office hours, and we can talk a little bit more intimately about your particular interests and how we may or may not be able to support through this cohort. We're excited to get to know you and go on this journey with you. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have more questions. Grateful for my team for all the work and excitement they're putting into this. It's going to be amazing. And yeah, so we can stay on for folks who might have 1 or 2 questions until the top of the hour. But I think that's all from us. Thank you so much again, James, for sharing your perspective, where you are and what you're interested in. I think that was super helpful to contextualize how California might participate as others consider it. And so thank you all again, and we're hoping to see you soon, hopefully as a part of our cohort. Wishing you a wonderful Wednesday. Thanks. For the folks that are still here, Henry, if you want to be able to enable them all to unmute in case they have a question and want to pop off of mute, love to do that. And then, yeah, we're here for any questions that you might have.
If you have any questions, you are able to unmute yourself.
All right, we'll wait another until like maybe 55 since we're not hearing from folks, and then we'll sign off and we're available for any follow-ups that may be needed.
Right. We'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, everyone.